Hi, my name is Alex Martinez, and this is my presentation on Gekiga influenced. The research question I will be answering is how has Gekiga influenced modern anime and media? But before we could talk about Gekiga's influence, we first need to discuss what Gekiga is. Gekiga means dramatic pictures. It is a style of Japanese manga aimed at adult audiences. It emerged in the mid-1950s as an alternative to more mainstream and whimsical manga aimed at children. Key figures include Yoshihiro Tatsumi, Masahiko Matsumoto, and Takao Saito, who sought to create a more mature and realistic comic. To the right, we have a comic strip of Tatsumi's Gekiga. The rise of Gekiga was closely tied to Takashi Hon Market, which provided a platform for alternative comics. In 1956, artists like Matsumoto and Tatsumi began experimenting with new styles and themes, leading to the formalization of Gekiga. Tatsumi specifically would later on be known as the grandfather of Gekiga. The magazine Gero was founded in 1964, played a crucial role in bringing together Gekiga artists and promoting their work. Now let's talk about Gekiga's themes and styles. If you look at the photo at the bottom, it shares a lot of similar qualities with all Gekiga. Gekiga is characterized by its mature and often dark themes, including social issues, political commentary, and psychological dramas. The art style is typically gritty and realistic, with a cinematic approach to storytelling. Gekiga often explores the struggles of ordinary people in suburban and rural Japan, as well as historical and speculative themes. Now we can talk about Gekiga's influence on modern media. Gekiga paved the way for mature and experimental manga and anime. Its cinematic technique and focus on realism have been adopted in various forms of media. Gekiga has also influenced Western comics and graphic novels, inspiring creators to explore more complex and challenging themes. Gekiga has a relationship with modern seinen anime, with similarities in it targeting young adult men and having more mature themes and complex storylines. They explore genres including action, romance, psychological drama, and may include darker and more graphic content. However, I'd like to make the argument that Gekiga's influence goes beyond seinen anime. I think it reaches shoujo, as well as slice of life anime. In my example, I'm using a slice of life anime called A Silent Voice. Like Gekiga, A Silent Voice explores mature and dark themes of bullying, disability, forgiveness, and mental health. My next example calls upon 2023's Godzilla -1. Now you may think 2023, that's so far off, and what does a kaiju movie have to do with anything that has to do with Gekiga? Specifically, this movie calls upon the late 1950s depiction of Godzilla, and also it calls upon historical and speculative themes of rural and urban Japan post-war. Outside of the giant lizard monster, most of the art style is gritty and realistic, just like Gekiga, and its mature and dark themes circle around PTSD, depression, and guilt. And when you compare this movie's cinematic approach to storytelling versus the blockbuster hits that are made over here in the US, you can see the difference and why this movie particularly ended up getting a Golden Globe. And as I mentioned before, Gekiga's influence has made its way beyond Japanese manga and movies. It's made its way to Western comics, graphic novels, and even movies. Shutter Island, for example, is a movie that's not only mature and experimental, but it also explores themes that are more complex and challenging. In the main character's realistic situation, we're left to think whether he is crazy and is going to get put down, or he's only pretending to be crazy because he wants to be put down. Either way, that movie leaves you very confused and challenged on what you would do if you were the people helping him, as well as you would do if you were him himself. And my last example of Gekiga-influenced media is the book Fight Club, which was later adapted to the movie, but we're going to focus on the book. Fight Club checks off the list of everything that Gekiga stands for, except for the fact that it's not based in suburban or rural Japan. Fight Club has mature and dark themes of death, mental illness, and insomnia. It also discusses social issues like following rules, living in society, and doing right and wrong, and who determines what is right and wrong. And it's the psychological drama because you first think it's just a bunch of guys fighting for no reason, and leads to the narrator having a split personality that turns into an extremist cult leader. The movie is realistic and gritty, and the characters themselves are just ordinary people. And the author is exploring complex and challenging themes throughout the story. To wrap it all up, Gekiga's legacy lies in his contribution to the diversification and maturation of Japanese comics. Its influence can still be seen in contemporary media as creators continue to draw inspiration from its innovative techniques and thematic depth. I challenge you from here on out to look at any anime, manga, or even movies and see if you can see any connection and correlation with Gekiga and its similar characteristics and themes. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.